This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
This table is really tilted.
Excuse me? Am I gonna get a chance to speak?
Maybe I should take that back.
Denied. Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Take a giant step for mankind.
Welcome to the Tilted Table with your hosts, Sean and Joe.
All right, you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Folks, welcome to another episode of The Tilted Table, the internet's answer to a question that no one asked. I am Sean Landon Clark.
And I am Joey Joe, the Fracky Mac.
And you can reach us on all major social media platforms at The Tilted Table 1, the number one.
Number one.
Yeah. So please do connect, like, subscribe, hit the bells, whatever. I don't even know what these...
All the notifications.
Yeah, I don't even know what these sites do. That's I don't know shit. All right, so folks, today we are going to talk about frivolous lawsuits. I'm thinking mostly against corporations and companies, but there's some that are not those things either.
It was a fun one to actually do a little bit of homework for in prepping for our episode.
Yeah.
Because on several of them, I read the headline. I'm like, that can't be real.
Right. I saw the same thing. When I was doing my research, the main thing I wanted to do was to sort of stay away from the ones I think everyone knows about.
Well, I think it all started in 1994 with the infamous McDonald's hot coffee incident.
Yeah, a woman had sued McDonald's because she bought a cup of hot coffee, and I guess she had put it in between her legs at a drive-through, and somehow it popped open and spilled on her and burned her really bad. And so it's like, yeah, coffee's hot, bitch. What you think?
Right. It literally says so on the cup.
Yeah.
In 17 different places.
Right. So, yeah, and when this first came up, that was my first thought was hopefully, we don't sit here and lean on the ones that people kind of know about.
Yes, that's just the OG classic.
That's the original.
Well, speaking of McDonald's, the one that I thought was pretty darn funny is there was a lawsuit against McDonald's for misrepresenting healthy food and what they called the drive-through diet.
Okay.
That, the way that McDonald's was advertising, and I didn't get to the actual advertisements itself, but basically if you ate all of their healthy diet friendly choices, that you would lose weight and live a better lifestyle or whatever, when in fact, if you ate those recommended healthy items from McDonald's, you had a whole bunch of health problems: diabetes, heart disease, cholesterol, blood pressure issues. So that lawsuit they entitled the drive-through diet lawsuit. And, when I saw that, I'm like, geez Louise, people, in what universe do you think that eating at McDonald's on a regular basis, maybe even daily, is going to be good for you? I don't even care what you're ordering.
Well, that was the original inspiration for Morgan Spurlock's Super Size Me, where people suing McDonald's because their kids were grossly overweight. And that was sort of the response from most people was how do you not know that eating this crap every day isn't going to, make you unhealthy and probably put on a lot of unnecessary pounds on you? It's stupid. It's like suing the alcohol industry because you've been drinking and it got you drunk. No shit. It's kind of fucking obvious, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Or with all smoking and cancer. It's at this point, you've been seeing these advertisements and public service announcements and everything for 4 decades, and people still get surprised on, I smoke 3 packs a day and I end up with cancer.
Yeah. Well, I'll give defense to the tobacco lawsuits, just because a lot of these people were addicted, in the 40s, 50s, and 60s when the tobacco industry was largely, covering this
sketchy
stuff up. But my mother, she was born in the 40s, and she started smoking in high school, would have been the 50s. And she says, yeah, there weren't any kind of notices about how dangerous it was. But she said, I knew when I was in high school that this wasn't something that was particularly good for you. And I'm going to equate it probably to kind of like maybe what we see now with vaping. People do that as an alternative to smoking, and we don't know exactly what kind of health damages it's going to have. It's going to take another 20, 30 years of people doing this before we know. But if you sit there and tell me that you don't know, I had no clue that this is unhealthy, I think we all understand that if you're vaping, it's probably not good for you. And I think that was my mother. I think she was telling me that was the feeling. We all kind of knew that this wasn't good for you. What the actual, consequence is down the line. We don't know yet. But to sit there and say that you had no clue, like, oh, this is perfectly fine. I'm not going to get hurt by this. Come on. You're breathing smoke into your lungs. Jesus, give me a break.
Right.
I don't care what decade you're from. That ain't good for you.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So my first lawsuit that I think is absolutely outrageous is also a McDonald's lawsuit, not the coffee one. There was a man, this is in 2014, he sued McDonald's for $1.4 million because when he got an order, he was only given one napkin. And this
is a real story.
This is a real story. He was given only one napkin, and when he asked for more napkins or complained about it, he claims that there was some racially charged response to him. So he sued McDonald's for $1.4 million for distress because the one napkin and the confrontation didn't allow him to work. It was so mentally devastating to him that he got one napkin.
And then what happened?
Of course, it went absolutely nowhere.
That's absurd.
But the guy that did it, his name was Webster Lucas, and this is a California lawsuit, and this is what I learned about it. He is on a list he's not from California, and I can't remember what state he's from, but he's on a litigious list in whatever state he's in. He sues people constantly. But in California, he wasn't on that list, so they allowed the lawsuit to go through. But what a big waste of time and money.
For sure. And that's also one thing I wonder about, people like that is where do they come up with all of the money to pursue all of these different legal challenges? Like you don't have anything better going on in your life than to focus on this thing. And then number two, even if you have a ton of money, that's your idea of like, you won't go on a vacation or do cool things with your family, but you'll pay the attorneys.
I think this would be my guess. Again, I'm not an expert. I don't know, but I'm assuming if somebody's this litigious, they probably get a lot of out-of-court settlements. Like it's just easy to pay somebody, let's say $10,000 to make it go away. And if you do that enough times and get a couple $1,000s here and there, you might be able to continue this route. It's a grift. It's all it is. And I'll just keep suing, companies like McDonald's. He's not going to get 1.4 million, but he's probably hoping that maybe they'll give him, $20,000, just because they don't want the bad publicity or whatever.
Just go away.
And just go away. And if you do that enough times, you could probably, it's your career. You sue, you settle, get a couple $1,000s, repeat.
Terrible.
Process.
Yeah. We have some friends that own a liquor store, and they've had people come in, and I'm using my doctoral quote fingers here, like slip on the floor when there's clearly nothing that's there, and they got the videotape evidence and everything else, but friends are like, man, we have to still pay them because it's better, or it's easier to pay them for the alleged slip than it is to rack up a huge amount of attorney fees in a year of our lives.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's just terrible. Terrible, terrible. Well, one of the things I think is funny, I couldn't find anything more on this story, but this involves a man who sued himself. And it was one of those funny things, like my very first thought was, is that possible? Can you actually sue yourself in court?
Hey, you got lawyers involved? They'll take on any case if you pay them.
Oh,
shit, I'll sue you. Go ahead,
man,
I'll allow you to sue you. Sure, give me my fee. I'm good.
I guess you can try, but I'm positive it's not going to go well for you, or any of you. And the reason I say any of you is apparently the issue with this person. I couldn't find the guy's name, but apparently he has multiple personalities. And so one of his split personalities sued the other personality on the grounds that his religious beliefs were violated. I don't know enough about this mental condition to be able to comment on, like, when did the other personality show up and find out about, like, how the lawsuit? Do you send yourself a letter? Did you engage a different attorney that you're not aware of? Like, I don't understand how that all works.
I'm trying to figure out, is your other personality Jeff Bezos so you can get paid?
Man, it's crazy. So
I guess the question I'm asking, does the other personality have a different job or he's making like a shit ton of money?
I don't even know. It's one of those things I know is out there, but I'm sure is like got to be one of the rarest conditions ever. But I just saw man sues himself and loses. Of course.
Well, no, if he sued himself, then he won. Because one of the personalities won, but it's the same person. This is like a chicken and egg kind of argument,
yes,
like, right?
Exactly. Did the chicken come first or the egg come first?
Well, let's break this down. So if you do sue yourself, one of your other personalities, and that other personality wins, you did lose. That personality lost. The other personality won. However, if you can somehow, like, I don't know how multiple personalities work, can you put yourself into the other personality, then you are the winner because now you're that person and you just won.
Does the different personalities have different bank accounts?
And like I'm saying, does a different personality have a job that pays really, really well so you can get paid?
Just madness. That's all. I mean, no, literally no pun intended, but madness.
But you know what? As weird as that story is, and as fucked up as it is for someone to sue themselves, I think the real fucking evil people in this story have to be the lawyers that take on something like this. Somebody took this on, correct? There's a lawyer involved.
Yep.
Right? Some dirtbag lawyer that took this on.
That one's absolutely amazing.
I'm telling you, lawyers, again, my mother was a lawyer and I got two uncles that were lawyers. So I got nothing but love for lawyers, but the dirtbag level of lawyers is just insane that, like, as a human being, if I was a lawyer and somebody walked into my office and said, I want to sue myself because this other personality did me wrong or whatever, I would be like, instead of taking the $5,000 check or the retainer, whatever it would be, I would be like, let me call somebody and get you some fucking help.
Exactly.
Right. So there's
because for that attorney, it's got to be, they're not sleeping at night. The stress has got to be bananas, and they probably go home to their families like, I had a messed up day, and it's just going to get worse tomorrow.
Hey, you know what? I'm a capitalist. I like making money, and I get it. Like, there's going to be somebody out there that's got to be the easiest lawsuit I've ever taken on. You're going to pay me. I'm gonna use the round number 5,000 to sue yourself. Fuck it, yeah. This is going to be super, super easy for me. It's an easy payday.
I'll call you when you win.
Okay. But when you're on the phone, how do you know which personality you're talking to? Because there's attorney-client privileges. So if you start talking about your lawsuit, but it's the other personality,
do you have to have like a safe word?
Well, no, I don't even know how that would work. But if you called, your client and he's in the other personality, you've now violated massive legal ban. You could get debarred, disbarred for this shit, right? You basically called the defendant and dumped all the information and gave all the information to the defendant.
The safe word is kumquat.
That is never a safe word. It never has been.
That's just crazy. All right, so there's the case of the man that sued himself and won, lost, however you want to cut it. It existed.
I need a break after that.
Yeah.
All right, so one of the lawsuits I came across is a group of guys that sued Beck's Beer. This is 2013. They sued Beck's Beer because Beck's is actually made in America, not in Germany, and there's nothing on the bottle that says made in the USA. They sued Anheuser-Busch, who's the parent company of Beck's Beer, for $5 million, claiming that they had been drinking what they thought was German beer, and in reality, it's made in America.
And again, had so much time and money on their hands that's how they wanted to spend it.
Yes. Again, this is, you want to go with the sort of frivolous lawsuit. This is a class action claim. So they had a group of people. The lawyers, class action became really popular with the tobacco industry. And any little misstep that a company's made in terms of presenting themselves incorrectly or lying about what they are, what they do. They're throwing out these lawsuits. And again, this is all a money grab that Anheuser-Busch, the largest producer of beer on this planet, would just probably pay them out. Here's my question. If you like Beck's Beer, and it is originally from Germany, Anheuser-Busch bought it, I think, in like 2010-ish. So they moved the production out to St. Louis. So they buy it. And they're now producing it in America. But, of course, they do the same thing all these beer companies do, which is they adhere to the original formula. The only difference between Beck's Beer made in America and Beck's Beer made in Germany is where it's actually produced. The formula is identical. So there is no difference in taste. They didn't change anything and then try to lie that it's not authentic German beer or whatever, Beck's history is. They just don't make it in Germany anymore. It's just now made in America. So, you do that, and then all of a sudden, it's like if you like Beck's Beer, like what? There's no lawsuit here. Like,
Right,
what's your
right.
fucking problem? You like Beck's. It doesn't make a difference if it's made in Germany or not. Now, if you feel you were lied to, like I'm drinking some classy imported beer, and it's not no longer made in Germany, and now all of a sudden the experience is less. I got two things to tell you. One, Beck's beer was never classy beer. It's bullshit beer. So it doesn't really matter if it's made in Germany, if it's made in America, or if it's made in the Philippines, or if some Chinese factories pumping it out and shipping it overseas. It's crappy beer no matter where it was made.
Yeah.
I'd give you at least an ounce of credit if it was Guinness, because Guinness is this Irish thing. There's, it's, the main brewery in Ireland has been, I think, it's been around since like the freaking like 13 or 1400s. I actually give you some credit there. If you're drinking a Guinness and all of a sudden you find out like, oh, this was made in Peoria, Illinois, I'm angry about that. I would understand that. But Beck's, nah, I ain't giving it to you.
Well, it's not like they went to Oktoberfest, in their later hosen, ready to, imbibe on all of the local beer and everything. And then they snuck around out back to take a leak, and they saw a Beck's with a giant "Made in the USA" stamp on the side of it, right? Like, okay, that situation, I kind of get it. I don't know that I would. I definitely would not go to lengths to, sue over it. Just be like, well, that kind of stinks.
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing we have to clarify with this whole conversation is these are all money grabs.
For 100%.
Yeah, these are all money grabs. If no one is genuinely hurt that they got one fucking napkin. No one is genuinely hurt that like, oh, my Beck's beer isn't made in Germany, it's made in the USA. Fuck off. Like, you're not hurt.
Right. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Leave a like on the video. I know you're enjoying this. Can you shut up?
The internet's answer to a question that was never asked. The Tilted Table with Sean and Joe.
Well, speaking of not or getting hurt, so there is there's a gentleman named Daniel Dukes, and apparently Daniel Dukes was the man with a plan, and his plan was he wanted to go swimming with killer whales at SeaWorld.
Okay.
And he made that happen. So he jumped the fence one night and went in the killer whale tank. He went literally sleeping with the fishes. So they found his body, and Mr. Duke's parents turned around and sued SeaWorld. And their contention was that SeaWorld had made killer whales seem way too friendly by selling plush toy versions of them.
And that's why he went out and got himself killed.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Yes. Okay.
He's an idiot. It's like you never saw National Geographic. You've never seen any of these other nature episodes. You've never talked to an oceanographer that talks about they didn't call it a killer whale because it wasn't a killer whale, right?
Well, this is the same, idea that if you watch a cartoon where like humans are, playing around with, animals that have, what do they call it? Personification, where they give the animal actual human characteristic it speaks.
Anthropomorphism.
Yeah. So you do something like that, right? And then it's like if I'm watching a cartoon and I'm seeing like, oh, humans can hang out with lions and tigers and bears, and they all hang out and they're fun, and they speak really good English too, that I can go out into the jungle and play with these animals and get killed. That would be the same kind of train of thought, correct?
Along those lines.
Yeah. Right. Like
life is a big Disney movie.
Yeah. Life is a big Disney movie. So these animals aren't dangerous. Now, look, the way I see this is that, like, the family's probably hurting, and they want some get back. And I can kind of see the idea that, like, and I'm saying this as if you're a kid, that if you saw that as a child, and you would think that, I saw Free Willy, and these animals are, friendly to humans. Yeah, maybe, but this is a big, big leap. That you really think that, like,
is it a big leap like Free Willy?
It's a massive leap like Free Willy.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, like, I guess you could, look at, when you go to the shows and, they've got the trainers in the water and they're making, Shamu do all this crazy shit or whatever. Yeah. They make them look like they're friendly, but even those trainers get killed every so often because killer whales are fucking killer whales. And sometimes they're going to kill you.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing with me, because I don't think I've ever talked about this. I am obsessed with big cats. Lions, tigers,
for sure.
cougars, like the whole thing. I love big cats, and I would want nothing more than to be able to cuddle and play with a goddamn lion. However, I am got an IQ that is above room temperature, and realize that I can't walk into any space with any kind of tiger and think that I'm going to play with that thing and not putting myself at a massive risk. That's a wild animal, and you make a move, even if it's trained and been around humans its whole life, you're dead. I stay away from them.
Well, for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to pet one. I'd like to pet one, but I don't want to pet one because I like my arm, and I have 2 of them, and I'd like to keep both of them.
Well, it's kind of that old saying about knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is that you do not put a tomato in a fruit salad.
Right, exactly.
Right?
That's exactly what we're talking about. I'll give you a story that actually happened in Las Vegas when I was in visiting Vegas years and years ago. So at the MGM, they have an actual lion's cage. So I don't know if it's still there. I haven't been to the MGM in a long time, but it was basically in the casino. There's this big glassed off area. It's recessed into a wall, and it's, I guess it'd be, Vegas's version of a nature preserve. It's got all the trees and stuff, and there's live freaking lions in that thing. So you can walk up to it and with the glass, and they're there, and it's like, a little mini zoo inside of a damn casino. Vegas never ceases to amaze me with the bullshit that they come up with. But so apparently one night, one of the trainers goes in there to, feed them or whatever they're doing, right? And a lion fucking attacks one of the dude and puts him in the hospital, critical condition, right? So this happened when I was there. So I'm playing at the tables. This shit goes down. It's ambulances everywhere, and they drag this dude out. And when it hits the news reporter asks the whoever the main head guy at that runs that, I don't know what to call it. It's not a zoo, whatever the exhibit. Why did the lion attack the guy? And he said the lion didn't attack the guy. He pawed him. He was playing with him. If he would attack the guy, he'd be dead. And I'm like, the strength of that animal, it wasn't even an aggressive move. It was a big cat pawing him and put him in the hospital. That's the strength of those animals. And my first thought was like, this is the exact fucking reason I would want to be near these animals, because even when they're not mad at you and they're just goofing or playing, you end up in the hospital. Can you imagine that thing attacked you? Oh my God.
Game over.
You're not getting out of that. You're done. So yeah, the frightening strength of those animals is enough to admire them from a distance. I love them. I would not want to touch one.
No, and I don't. Never ever have I thought about going swimming with killer whales.
Yeah, it's just insane. I mean, what that animal is.
It's unfortunate for Mr. Dukes, but for the family, you're right. They're hurting, but there's, in terms of frivolous lawsuits, that's just the money grab.
Oh yeah, total money grab. Well, I'm gonna put it off in a slight money grab, but mostly a money grab.
Yeah.
The only sympathy I'm giving anybody with this is that maybe he thought that he's convinced that these animals are friendly to humans. One too many trips to SeaWorld and watching Free Willy.
Apparently, yeah, that was a good Michael Jackson music video though at the end of that movie.
Yeah,
I like that.
Okay, so the lawsuit that I have next is Home Depot got sued, and this one is, I think, more endemic of a modern society that somehow doesn't understand common knowledge. These people sued Home Depot because the 4x4s that they bought for whatever DIY project they were doing weren't actually 4 inches by 4 inches. They're 3.5 by 3.5.
This is a real story.
They sued them for $5 million because the 4x4s were actually, if you measure them, they're 3.5 by 3.5. Now, I get it if people out there don't understand exactly what I'm talking about. But in the world of construction, since the day these types of products came out, they've always been 3.5 by 3.5. They call them 4x4s because that's what they call them. They were never 4 inches by 4 inches. They've always been 3.5 by 3.5. It's just easier to say 4x4 versus 3.5 by 3.5 wood.
Facts.
All right. So
It's funny. Not to cut you off because I want you to go right back
go
to
ahead.
it. I never knew that.
You didn't know that?
No, I always thought they were 4x4.
Well, I think most people know that. Like, well, they assume they're 4 inches by 4 inches. But if you measure it and it's only 3.5 by 3.5, and every other board that you ever see that's a 4x4 is 3.5 by 3.5, and you actually brought that up to somebody and they would tell you, like, well, that's the size they all are, no matter where you go. How do you have a lawsuit? No one lied to you because you didn't know. That's just an easy term for a piece of wood. Doesn't make them lying to you. That's how I see it. Now, I guess maybe you can make an argument that, but it doesn't change anything. The 4x4 you bought 50 years ago is the same 4x4 you bought today. They're all the same size. They're 3.5 inches. So you didn't get ripped off. There's nothing. It's not like Home Depot was in the back shaving off 1/2 inches to save money. There is no lawsuit here. So, I mean, you could try to apply this to some other, industry where, I don't know. I'm spitballing here. Like, if I bought a car that said turbo, but my impression of turbo is like it can go 500 miles an hour if I hit a button, like some night, the supercar. That's not what turbo means. It's never meant that. Everyone understands that, even if they do not understand exactly what turbo means. Just because you think it means something because it says turbo, I expect this. But it's never been that. It's not like somebody cheated you or, lied to you or gave you something that wasn't turbo. Your perception of turbo doesn't change the fact of what turbo actually is. You can't sue somebody for that. Just because you've always thought a 4x4 is 4 inches doesn't mean anybody lied to you. That means you don't know anything about wood.
You're an idiot. Yeah, pretty much in sum, you're an idiot.
So I'll tell you what happened. It got dismissed out of court immediately. And that was the argument the judge said, that for someone to be wronged, they'd have to have advertised something that isn't true. And so while you could make an argument, well, they call it 4x4, but it isn't actually 4 inches. It's not like they are 4 inches at Lowe's or at some other hardware store and Home Depot shaves off that side. It's like literally telling them, like, they're always been 3.5 by 3.5. You bought what is always been sold.
What's amazing about all of that is for all of us, you want to live a life of, purpose, dignity, make the world a better place, all of those things. And can you imagine you go home and your significant other says, so what'd you do today? And the answer is, well, I filed a lawsuit in court for this a 4x4 not being an actual 4x4. And that's where I spent the bulk of my my lifespan today was arguing this case. That's some garbage, man. Yeah, there should be, well, now with like AI and all that, they should be able to scan through these things and just kick it out the door.
Sure. Yeah.
That's garbage. Dumb. Well, it's almost kind of like one of the ones that was on my list that we were talking about off camera is somebody sued Subway for the foot long not being an actual foot long. They took a tape measure to it and it was 11 inches and not 12 inches.
Yes.
And it goes back to that, you with the time and the money that you have, that's how you decided you wanted to spend it, was to sue Subway because you were missing an inch of sandwich.
Oh, okay, true. You're 100% right. I will say this, and this actually kind of coincides with the Home Depot. They say 4x4, but it's 3.5. Subway's saying it's foot long. It's only 11 inches. I would say the difference is this: is if you can show me a history that all foot long sandwiches have always been 12 inches, and Subway somehow dicked you out of an inch. Okay, you might have a case, but let's all face it. I've told women that my junk is a certain size, 1/2 inch here and there.
Well, I mean,
don't guys say like, oh, I'm 5'11", and they're really like, oh, they're 5'10.5". Close enough. Who's really gonna notice?
Round up.
Just round it up.
Like 5'10" and 3 millimeters.
Do you know what Subway's response to that was?
They changed the sandwich size.
Well, but initially what they said, because the $5 footlongs and all that kind of bullshit, they claim that the footlong is a term to represent a sandwich that is basically 12 inches long, right? And that not all sandwiches are going to be exactly 12 inches. It's more just a kind of a general term to describe the size of a sandwich. I can almost harken that back to Home Depot. It's just easier to say 4x4. And everyone knows that it's not actually 4 inches by 4 inches. I guess you could make an argument that, like, I have this sandwich. Well, it's a big sandwich. Well, how big is it? It's about a foot. Okay, we'll just call them foot-long sandwiches. And they might be 11 and a half. They might be a foot-long sandwich. Now, if historically there was some kind of thing where all foot-longs were always exactly 12 inches, then I can kind of see a case. But I would assume it's bread. It gets baked. Things aren't always I guess what I'm saying is, how the fuck can you make, bread consistently always 12 inches? How many sandwiches have they sold that were over 12 inches because the bread was slightly longer than the last batch that was baked? I mean, it's just not like you're getting a 9-inch sandwich. It's pretty much a foot-long fucking sandwich. And you're right. This is how much time you got, how you want to be remembered for when you talk about a life of dignity and purpose. You're the person that bitched about an inch of sandwich.
That's what's going to be on your tombstone.
Right. And looking at most Americans, they could probably use a slightly smaller sandwich.
100%.
You fat fucks.
Yep. Try walking. In the vein of, quote, eat healthy. Yeah. Eat the sandwich and go take a walk.
Right.
Garbage. All right. Well, the other funny one is there, when you think of a meteorologist and having correct weather forecasts,
which they never did. Now, prior to the internet, weather people were notoriously off.
Oh, but it was like a 90% error rate. It was more of like, hey, we need to fill this time slot in the evening news. Hey, weather dude, take a look at that screen. Tell us what you think's gonna
I
happen.
worked in journalism, and just real quick, I don't want to interrupt you too much, but prior to the internet, and the weathermen would just call the local weather service. Like, we have a national weather service here in Central Cali, so you would just call them and get all the reports, and then they would just regurgitate those reports on air. Half these weathermen weren't even meteorologists. They're just anchors that are just regurgitating the information. And again, prior to the internet and satellites and the technology we have now, predicting weather for the next day, pretty accurate. But when you start going like the 7-day forecast or the 10-day, no. Now we can. We're pretty accurate, even pretty far out.
For sure.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Doppler radar.
Yeah.
Well, I guess this was in the Netherlands. So this lady actually ended up suing a meteorologist because they predicted that it was going to be sunny when in actuality it rained. But in this lawsuit, the woman says that she left the house without the proper attire. It was too cold.
Okay.
She got sick and she missed work because of it. And it was all the meteorologist's fault for providing wrong information that dictated how her day/life turned out.
Wait, okay, so I might give this some credence. What year is this? Do you know?
It doesn't give me a year at all.
It has had to have happened, but a long time ago.
It doesn't. I was trying to do in my search, recency, but I found this case on BlakeHarrisLaw.com. So
okay, so here's my first thought with this. Actually, I'm giving her zero credence. I'm going to give no legitimacy in any of this, and here's why. Let's say it's a long time ago. A long time ago, the weatherman was often wrong, so you prepared for that. Now, if it's more recent and the weatherman lied to you, you have a phone in your hand that will give you the most accurate weather
or
up to the minute.
Or Siri.
Yeah.
Or Alexa.
Yeah. So you get zero sympathy from me.
Or your microwave.
If you walk outside and you have zero clue what it's going to be like, you either prepare in the old days for the inevitable incorrect weatherman, or it's a modern time where who the hell listens to a goddamn weatherman? They get off my fucking phone, and it's up to the goddamn second. Like, if there's a storm coming right now, they could have said it was sunny. Today's going to be sunny, high of 72. If there's a storm coming, it will come on my phone and say, like, okay, well, something changed.
Yep,
here comes
Here
comes a hurricane.
It's on your lock screen.
Yeah, it's right there.
People, man. People. Just when you think you've heard it all, right?
I know. And you know what? That's not even that surprising of a lawsuit. Like, I can see that, that there's lawyers out there that would definitely jump on that. I can see that going through. I got one, and this is actually a horrific story, and I think it's definitely a big marker of where our society is. And if you've ever seen the movie Idiocracy, okay, so if anybody out there has seen this movie, this is Idiocracy in its real form. The stupidity of modern society never seems to baffle me. So this is a lawsuit that was filed against Google. And here's what happened. A woman decided to use Google Maps to walk a path to get somewhere. And
I think no pun intended. I think I know where this is going.
And she followed the route that Google, gave her, which apparently said that she was supposed to walk across a fucking freeway. And she walked across a freeway when traffic is flying everywhere, got hit and killed. And they sued Google, saying that it gave her incorrect directions and put her life at risk. Obviously, it killed her. And again, I can't emphasize that the lack of common sense is absolutely fucking baffling.
Staggering.
Right? So I've used Google Maps to take me to places. I'll give you a good example. To your house, Joe. I typed in your address, and apparently you live in one city, but the same number and street
are in a different city. And Google Maps told me, well, because I just filled in whatever blank as I'm typing in, and it's filling in the suggestion. Mm-hmm.
And I pull out my driveway, and I go down the first street to the first major street, and it says, turn left. I kind of knew where you lived. It wasn't in that direction. It was in the exact opposite direction.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, wait, this can't be right. There must be something wrong. So I look at I'm like, oh, wrong city. Like, it's not rocket science. Now, I can, let's assume, because I think at that point I'd never been to your house.
Nope.
Ever.
Right.
But I knew you didn't live in city A. You lived in city B,
mm-hmm.
right? And so I was able to figure it out. That's at least quasi-complicated, right? If I'm walking down the street and Google's like, keep walking forward, walk onto the freeway with cars flying at 80 miles per hour in both directions, I think I would stop and go like, I'm not sure this is correct. Right? Am I wrong about this?
No. It's sad for that poor lady, but
no, it isn't. I don't know.
She's got to be like, what is it? Survival of the fittest type of a deal. Like, a billion people would make the different decision. She was the one person that didn't.
Yeah, I have zero sympathy for this person. We're reading lawsuits off of the internet and stories that happen. We're getting news reports. This is not what happened. What happened was Google told her to go somewhere, and whether it was wrong or not, she saw a freeway, and what she decided to do was, rather than go walk back around,
she wanted to play Frogger.
Because it would probably take more time. Who doesn't want to cut across a freeway if it's a shorter route? That would be awesome if you could do it. And she decided, I think I can cross this freeway. That's what she did. She did not blindly just keep walking and just walk into the freeway and get smacked by a car. And it's like, well, Google told me to do that.
Right.
No, I'm not buying it. However, I'm going to qualify it with this. People are so stupid today. It wouldn't surprise me if that's exactly what happened. It must be the right route. It must be safe because Google told me it was. It's possible. And that frightens me a little bit.
Yep. You prefaced correctly with the state of the union or where society might be, because unfortunately, as ridiculous of a scenario as this is, I could see it happening again.
Yeah. And, look at, everybody can look up, dumb things that people have done. The Darwin Awards are the classic example,
mm-hmm.
or 1,000 Ways to Die, that old TV show. People inherently do stupid things that go beyond basic comprehension of common sense. Like, how did you do that? I can't wrap my head around it. So I like to be more optimistic and think that that's not exactly what happened. You knew what you were doing and you took a risk and you died.
Darwin Awards.
Hopefully I don't win one.
That's a fact.
I have an important announcement for you, so stay tuned.
Yo, that's some next level shit, bruh.
So you got me. Big deal.
The internet's answer to a question no one asked. The Tilted Table with Sean and Joe.
Folks, thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Tilted Table, the internet's answer to a question that no one asked. I'm Sean Landon Clark.
And I am Joey Joe, the Fracky Mac.
And I'm going to walk out of a flying airplane because Google has told me that we've landed.
Oh, man. I might fly down on a raft with you.
Folks are out.
Peace.